Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. Yes, and here we go. We've passed the 300 milestone, and this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, welcoming you to episode 301 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. And a special evening because, of course, this evening was the State of the Union address. And tonight I'm going to give some analysis of that, some of my thoughts on what the President said, maybe a little bit on what he didn't say as well. It was, let's say, an interesting speech. And everything that goes on around this, so plenty to talk about today. Tonight's show is coming to you once again from Liberal Land up in northeast England. Yes, I'm back in Connecticut. Just another couple of another trips up here, and then I'll be done. Of course, it's pretty cold up here, so no complaints from me not coming back here in the near future. But I'm not done yet. Still got some fun times up here, and very interesting little project that I'm on, so it's going to be fun getting this client up and working. And as ever, I would like to say hi to those of you that are listening live. I know a lot of my listeners actually listen to the recordings or the rebroadcast through some of the different networks that rebroadcast me. But for those of you that are listening live, and I know that Paul has arrived, he is in the chat room. If you want to join Paul in the chat room there, and you can chat while I'm talking, feel free to click on the little speech button in the Spreaker box there. That'll take you into the chat room, and we have lots of interesting chat, and also a very nice picture of Paul in his dinner jacket. Picture which I'm told was taken in London. So welcome, Paul. Thanks for coming. And anyone else. And again, as I said, for those of you that are not listening live, please do send me your feedback, send me your comments, your questions. I love to hear from my listeners. You can reach me at stefan@patrickcomelately.us, or you can go to the website www.patrickcomelately.us and go to the contact box, leave a message there. You can also go to radio.patrickcomelately.us, which brings you to where the show is broadcast. You can listen to recordings there. You can also leave comments, or you can go to archives.patrickcomelately.us and leave comments there. So plenty of ways to leave comments, and I will try to respond to your comments, both in writing, but a lot of the time as well, if relevant, bring in your question or your comment on a future show. So, folks, State of the Union. King Barry's last State of the Union address. And there were a lot of questions before it took place. What exactly was he going to say? There were a number of things leaked about what was going on. And well, what did he end up saying in the end? I'm not going to do a full bore analysis. There are plenty of shows on the TV and on the radio that are going to do that. I'm going to pull out some of the things that struck me and just touch on them and comment on them. But overall, I will say that on the one hand, I'd expected him to be maybe a lot more negative than he was. Now he got in his usual number of digs against the Republicans and people who don't agree with him and the Democrats. That was to be expected, but to be honest, a little bit less than I was expecting, especially with some of the things that have been leaked out. Yeah, so that kind of surprised me, but it still was very much a campaign speech, I think, and especially as it's the last one, not a lot in terms of specific mandates or specific requests to Congress for anything, but very much more kind of a broad, this is what I'd like to do, and also a little bit of looking back and trying to justify the mess that he's made in a number of areas. So the interesting touch that he started off with was to start talking about bipartisanship. And I thought, such a hypocrite. I mean, he has been so against bipartisanship himself, while calling it out all the time and saying, yes, we've got to be more bipartisan. But who's the guy that basically ignored the opposition and to a certain extent ignored Congress, other than people like Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi to help him push things through that nobody wanted. But other than that, he seems to have totally ignored Congress. So, hypocritical. He started off mentioning the immigration system, gun control, equal pay, paid leave, raising the minimum wage, all the usual sort of mantras that we get. Excuse me a moment. Mantras that we get from the Democratic side of the House. But, hey, what else would you expect? So as we got into the speech, one thing then he started saying, well, this isn't about the coming year, this isn't about the past years, but I'm talking about the next 5, 10 years and beyond. My heart stood still. Do you mean we're not getting rid of you by any chance? But as he went on further, didn't really give that thing, but it did kind of worry me there. Fairly early on, he mentioned the rule of law, and I had to laugh again. The rule of law, yeah, we need to live by the rule of law. Excuse me, Mr. President, aren't you the one that doesn't live by the rule of law? Well, yeah. He said how we recovered from the worst recession, and now we now have a strong economy. The economy isn't strong, it's still weak, people are still struggling to make ends meet. And you want to claim that you made the economy strong, that you helped it recover from the worst recession? As far as I can see, you just did nothing, sat on your rear end, waiting till things sorted them out. Well, no, sorry. I apologize. I have to tell the truth. I may not be George Washington, but I still have to tell the truth. That's right. You didn't sit on your rear end. What you did was... Exactly. You went out and played a round of golf. But did you do anything about solving the recession? No, you just let it struggle out. And what you did actually do was end up stretching it out longer than any other recession that we've known. So how about that? You claimed that your administration delivered more care and benefits to veterans. Do you mean veterans managers? Do you mean veterans bureaucrats? Because the veterans themselves didn't get any care and benefits. Look at the VA scandals. And then he started making comments, and this came up once or twice in the in the whole speech, harping on about people who are spreading fear, who are being negative, obviously targeting the Donald, but also people like Cruz and Rubio, etc. So, that was kind of the start, and you're thinking, okay, well, like I said, campaign speech, he's going to say these things. So then he came up with his kind of what he called his 4 topics for the speech. And one of the commentators I heard after the speech actually said, the speech was very disjointed because there wasn't really anything of substance in it. And there were just so many things in there. And he had 4 questions. Now, rule of thumb when you're doing a presentation, never talk about more than 3. So I don't know who was doing his... setting up his speech, but wrong there. And he talked about everyone needing a fair shot at opportunity and security. Well, if you didn't create so many regulations, King Barry, then they would have a fairer shot. Making technology work for us was another one of his topics. But why did he want it to work for us? To solve climate change? Aren't there better things we can do with our technology? Keeping America safe without becoming the world's policeman. Well, unfortunately, we've seen if we leave it to others, we are stuck. So why shouldn't we become the world's policeman? I don't think we should be the world's policeman either. But we can also not just be isolationists and withdraw within the borders. We have to make sure that those who want to do bad things to us, they have to be policed because nobody else is going to do that for us. And finally, his 4th topic, he said he wanted to make politics reflect what is best in us, not worse. And for that one, my skin really crawled. Because basically, isn't everything that he did with politics, isn't it just that? Basically to belittle, to be uncivil to the opposition, to force things through without letting we, the people, have any say in the matter. And not just him, I mean, it's all of Washington to a certain extent, but he kind of put pedal to the metal on that. So, hey, words are cheap. And he certainly uses a lot of words, but did they mean anything? No, I think he was just sitting there blah, blah, blahing. And there were words where he was very obviously not telling the truth. He touted how his administration had cut unemployment in half. And I sort of go, cut unemployment in half? The only way you cut unemployment in half is because people's work time was cut in half. But cutting unemployment in half, no. All of the people who are out looking for jobs and not getting counted because they've given up because there's no economy and there's no jobs in the economy. You didn't cut unemployment in half. You just doctored the figures to make it look as if the unemployment was cut in half. Come on, let's be honest about that. He also said he cut the deficit by 3/4. What is he smoking? $18 trillion in debt, and he cut the deficit? Then he started talking about education, and guess what? So he talked about cutting the deficit. So he must have decided, well, I've cut the deficit, so he imprinted that on his brain. I've cut it so much, I'm going to have a lot of money to spend because I'm going to spend a lot of money on education. Pre-K for all was one of the things he mentioned. Yeah, of course, they want to get young children into the government schools as early as possible so we can start indoctrinating them earlier, right? You've got to use curlicue lights, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. Save the planet. But not just pre-K. At the other end of the education spectrum, he said, we've got to cut the cost of college. We're going to give free community college. Free community college? Has nobody ever taught you, King Barry, any economic basic 101? Maybe you need some education, because there ain't such thing as a free lunch. Free community college is not free. It's paid for by people who work hard for their money. And you take that money and use it to give other people free community college. Now, he did say one, and I have to say, one funny thing, quite a reaction in the hall. Possibly the only true thing he said the whole evening. He said it seems the only people who work at the same job for 30 years and get good benefits and do the same thing year after year after year are the ones working in that room. He said this room. In other words, Congress. Got a bit of a reaction, not even a laugh, but actually a reaction of people, because that was very definitely the truth. Like I said, possibly the only true thing he said. So, what other things was he talking about? Well, he touted how 18 million people now gained health care. That 18 million people, is that new people who are getting health care who didn't have it before? Are we not including the people who lost health care? He said we slowed health care cost inflation. Can you really say that when some of the health care premiums in states went up by 30, 40, 50%? Can you really say that, Mr. Obama? I'm sorry. What have you been smoking? He also said, what role should the government play in, and he didn't use these words, but he said, in controlling the rich and big companies because they're earning too much. In other words, what role should the government play in fleecing the rich and companies? And then he went on to say something about cutting red tape so that small and medium businesses could grow. Wow, almost sounding like a Republican. What a surprise. Okay, folks, I see I'm a little over time for the commercial break, so I'm going to take a quick stop here. I hope that you're enjoying this analysis of the State of the Union, whether you listen to it or not. But as I said, as kind of the invite on Spreaker, I watched it, so you don't have to. Hopefully this summary that I'm bringing you will just give you a little bit of insight what went on there. Like I said, I'm sure there'll be plenty more in the morning as well from all sorts of folks. Anyway, commercial break, and I will be back after these messages.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And we're back in the next segment of the show. For those of you that have stopwatches, the commercials are going to come at a slightly different time. Just want to have a little bit of flexibility on this special State of the Union show, talking about some of the things that our dear leader has been talking about tonight in the State of the Union address. Another thing that caught my attention was how he, one section, he was listing a bunch of American, let's call them entrepreneurs, people like Edison, the Wright brothers, a whole list of people who have made America in a way what it is, but through capitalism. And I couldn't help but think, this is the guy who a few years ago made that, you did not make that comment. And now he's kind of using these people as a crutch, saying that, and of course this is what happened, that his administration nurtured that spirit, were the words he used. And I thought, no, sorry, wrong again. Your Highness, you stifled that spirit with all the regulations and EPA, DHS, this, that, the other, Dodd-Frank, all these things, just unbelievable. But again, as I said, I wonder how many, when they do the fact-checking, how many Pinocchios he'll have. I'm sure it'll run in the thousands. Anyway, so as I mentioned earlier, one of the commentators that I listened just before the show was saying that the speech was very disjointed because it didn't really have any real goals in it, and it was or what goals were there. There were too many different ones. One of them was kind of a challenge, which is a very good challenge in of itself, but you don't mix it in really with all the other stuff. And I just would say, well, yeah, it sounded good, but I don't think there's any substance to it. Was his moonshot, which was to challenge people to try and find a cure for cancer. And this was started talking about, families that lost people and everything, etc. And I thought, uh-oh, here comes gun control. But no, it was cancer. Now, of course, the laugh about it is that he put the court jester in charge of this. Yes, good old Uncle Joe was put in charge. So we're going to see what happens there. And so he just said this, how important this was, and then boom, he went into the next one. And this was obviously the one where he had a lot of passion. Yes, take a guess. Climate change, of course. And so he went into that, said how important that was, and started also throwing out all sorts of numbers. And I'm sort of going, nah. These really need to be fact-checked, because I'm sure that he's going to get a lot of Pinocchios for that. And then there were a couple of ominous undertones that he mentioned. Don't know if anybody noticed. If you saw it, did you notice this? Obviously, if you're relying on me to have watched it for you, so you didn't need to. Then you wouldn't have heard this. But I noticed he mentioned that he wanted to kind of change how oil and coal were managed. And that all of a sudden, little alarm bells in the back of my head started ringing. Sounded ominous, more government overreach, right? And then he said by doing that, using it to improve transportation. And of course, just before that, the reason for managing oil and coal was because all these new alternative energy things were doing, had made such a huge impact to the economy, etc. And I'm sort of going, well, I'm actually, the project I'm working at is right now at an alternative energy company. But it is a drop in the ocean in terms of affecting the economy. So really, again, I sort of looked at that and said, really strange. So, yeah, it was a strange speech. But change of direction. Let's a little bit. So after he talked about this, the alternative energy, whatever, managing coal and oil better, using profits from somewhere to fund better transportation. Like I said, more government overreach coming up. But then we're going to go in another direction. So, quick little interlude here, and then let's go in the other direction. So when he changed direction, the next topic that he was talking about, again, and I'm sort of going, folks, what's he smoking? What's he dreaming? So he came out and specifically said that he felt America was the most powerful nation on earth. And the reason he said that was because so many people are saying that it's getting weaker. Specifically the Donald, but the Cruzes, the Marco Rubios, even Jeb Bush gets in on that, saying we're getting weaker. And so he said, no, we're the most powerful nation on earth and we're not getting weaker. The camera on TV then panned to some of the generals that were sitting in Congress there, and the looks on the faces of those generals that spoke 1,000 words. He said, no nation attacks us directly. Again, what is the guy smoking? 10 U.S. sailors and 2 of our ships were boarded and commandeered by the Iranians. And he says no nation attacks us directly. The guy must be on drugs. I mean, I can't say anything else. He says the world does not look to Moscow or Beijing to solve problems. They call us. He's cloud cuckoo land. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. He said, I start every day with a security briefing so I know what's going on. And yet, time and time again, we hear that he's missing his security briefings. So is he just saying this to kind of cement his legacy so that he doesn't go down in history as the president who missed so many of these security briefings? I don't know. He talked about the Middle East and China being in transition, which they are. Middle East is a mess. China, all of a sudden its economy is imploding. That's a dangerous situation. He even had the goal to say that his approach with Syria was the smarter approach. Smarter like what? I mean, let's face it, Syria is a mess. 250,000 people roughly killed already. Millions of people as refugees. I mean, at least 1 million in Germany, and we know what kind of problems they're having there. But millions of people, 4.5, 5, 6 million people. I mean, think about it, folks. That number, 6 million people, that's about the same number people as the Germans killed in the Holocaust. Can you imagine, in the space of 6 months, that number of people fleeing a country and having to go to other countries and overwhelming other countries with these people, overburdening the welfare, bringing in people who they don't know what they are. Most countries encourage immigration, but you have to show that you're a fine, upstanding citizen, and all of a sudden they're swamped with these people. Lots of people who are very frustrated, lots of people who basically could be, and very often are, criminals, terrorists. And he says his approach on Syria is the smarter approach. Folks, unbelievable. Anyway, I see that it is time for our next commercial break. And after that, I think it's also time for a little bit of music. So we'll have some music as well. But first of all, commercial break. I will be back in a moment.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We're talking about the State of the Union tonight. My kind of humble summary and analysis of what went on, and I'm not going to, obviously I'm not going to be able to cover all of the topics, but I just wanted, I was, as I said in the introduction to the show, I listened, I watched, so you did not need to, and what I did is, things that struck me, I kind of pulled out of what King Barry was saying and just wanted to kind of react to that. That's my analysis. Like I said, there are far more studied people that will be picking this whole speech apart, but there's just a number of things that I wanted to kind of react to, things that that Obama said. He, of course, had to touch on ISIS or Daesh, as I like to call them. He likes to call them ISIL. I still don't understand why he does that. I've explained in shows before that I think that's, the wrong name, and I've given you the reasons why. But he continues to do that. But anyway, so Daesh, he said, has been rooted out, hunted down, and killed. Excuse me, sir. Did you really say that? He said, yes, we've had over 10,000 airstrikes. And of course, the first thing that came to mind for me was the story that I told you about right here on the show. They may have had 10,000 air sorties, not air strikes, but air sorties. He uses the word airstrikes. A little bit of confusion there, or maybe it was deliberate. But actually, no, air sorties, because 75% of the time they weren't allowed to use their ordnance, be it bullets, be it bombs, be it rockets, because they had to come back. So, of course, he took a dig in here as well at those who have talked about bombing the you-know-what out of people and saying that's not the way to do it. But, of course, doing some bombing is, but as minimal as they were doing. Now, the good news is, just as an aside here, apparently we did have a situation where they blew up one of the treasury points of Daesh. So that means they can't pay their people. That, to me, was brilliant intelligence, a good thing to do. But anyway, so he said it isn't just threats from Daesh and Al-Qaeda. He said even if we exterminate them, we have to make sure there are no other safe havens for other terrorist groups, because they will continue to develop, and we have to be prepared to fight them. And as I said earlier, just so disappointed that he made absolutely no mention of the sailors held in Iran. Of course not. It doesn't fit his agenda, because Iran is now our big buddy. He did lie about Iran, about how they're getting rid of their nuclear materials. Apparently they've only had low-level nuclear materials that they're getting rid of. So he said, this is a smarter approach. We act on issues directly that impact the U.S., but work with the globe on... work with the world on global issues, and Iran being one of them. This negotiated agreement with them, and he said it's shipping out its uranium stockpile. Sorry, folks, lies, and lies again. Iran has shipped out some uranium, but not stockpiled uranium, not weapons-grade uranium, just low-level stuff. The stuff that you would need in a nuclear reactor that is generating power. Yeah, what they're keeping is the weapon-grade stuff, the stuff that you put in a bomb. He pushed TPP again, right, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, saying that Congress needs to pass this agreement-struck treaty. And he touted again how bringing Cuba in from the cold, because isolation hadn't furthered the cause of democracy. So we had to get buddy-buddy with Cuba. So he's buddy-buddy with Iran, right? The mullah dictators there. He's buddy-buddy with Cuba, with the Castros that are dictators there in Cuba, right? Support dictators, lift the embargoes. Then he talked about how we helped Ukraine defend democracy. And I'm going, what did we do? We didn't send weapons. We didn't do... there's not very much we did. People died in the Ukraine because there was a plane shut down. Yeah. So, as you see, not all good. Now, one thing that was missing was gun control. But I want to come back to that. So as he got to the end, he also had a little bit of a lecture to the politicians, but if you like, specifically directed at the Republican Party again, about civility, having rational, constructive debates. And so again, I'm going, well, why didn't you talk to Congress? Why didn't you work with Congress? Why did you railroad Obamacare through when the Republicans at the time wanted to provide constructive amendments to Obamacare, something that would have made it more palatable to both the opposition, but also to we the people, and you refused to do that. You just said, no, my way or the highway. He said, we need to make changes in the political process, and he's going to travel the country to push for these changes. Again, my skin started crawling when I heard that. He made another call for campaign finance reform. But all the time he talks about how individuals, a few individuals, obviously aimed at the Koch brothers, and companies can influence the elections by money, right, by the super PACs, and I don't disagree with that. But he doesn't mention the unions. No, of course, it's they're his supporters. He talked about the fact that people are trying to roll back voting rights. Yes, voter ID came up again, although he didn't specifically mention it. And then he started towards the end talking about the goodness and decency that I see in the people every day. And I'm going, out of your ivory tower, you never talk to the people. You don't know what people are, what's going on in your country. You're just in that Washington ivory tower. So goodness and then he finished off with some quotes from Martin Luther King. Apparently, finished with unarmed truth and unconditional love. And saying that when he was talking about some of the bad things going on in the world, and we have to fight that with unarmed truth and unconditional love. Folks, he must have been smoking something really, really strong when he wrote this speech, or his people were doing. So, then, Nikki Haley came on to give the GOP rebuttal, and as Charles Krauthammer said, it was a very, very good speech. She is, I think, kind of cemented the rumors with this speech about her the possibility for her to become a running mate, and obviously if Hill Lyer actually does get the nomination on the Democrat side, having a woman as the VP is going to be of vital importance, and she is definitely cemented a place at the top of the list for any candidate who ends up having won there. So that was a very good speech. Have to congratulate her on it, and we can expect a lot from her. Now, don't know if anybody noticed, but amongst the guests that were invited in the First Lady's box, including a Syrian refugee, of course we had to have that, etc., 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 there was also an empty chair. The Obama administration thought it would be a good thing to put an empty chair there to represent all the people killed by gun violence. Did they not think, are they really that stupid? All it did for me, it immediately reminded me of Clint Eastwood's famous empty chair speech at the RNC of 2012. Did the Obama camp really not remember that when they placed that empty chair there? Are they really that stupid? I think they are. Anyway, so this was really the only kind of little bit that they did actually talk about gun control. I thought there was going to be more, so the piece of music that I chose earlier in the evening was this famous ode. I've played it before, and I thought this would be very suitable if he talked a lot about gun control. He didn't, but it's still a cracking good song. So Steve Voss here with "Come and Take It."
Deep in the heart of Texas, back in 1835, they drew a line in the sand. The folks at Gonzales had freedom on their minds. It was all because of a cannon that had kept their colony safe. But then General Santa Anna sent some Mexican troops to take the big gun away. You know what those colonists said? Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but we'll warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time. Well, that started a revolution that no one could put down. Like a wildfire for freedom, it's burning even now. You see, even if you got an army, when all is said and done, you just don't mess with Texas, especially when it comes to guns. The Mexicans went home without that cannon. Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but we'll warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time. Now I know the Constitution, and it gives me certain rights that I will never, ever give up, at least not without a fight. So if anybody's even thinking they're gonna take my guns away, like the good old boys down in Gonzales, I got one thing to say. Come on, make my day. Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time.
And as I said, that was Steve Voss with "Come and Take It." In this time that dear leader has been pushing gun control again, I think that's a great song to play. So, right now, let's move on to a new topic. And as I was getting ready for this show, I was thinking about Obama and some of the hopes that we had when he was originally elected, and I call this section 7 years in Obama land, with if you like, that's of course taken from 7 years in Tibet, but for this was 7 years in Obama land. And I think a lot of people were expecting when he was first elected, this was going to be finally the great post-racial great reconciler. And instead, he turned out to be the most divisive leader of this country that we've, almost the most divisive we've ever had, if not the most. And I think that is probably what's going to be his legacy. I mean, we don't like his policies, we don't like his ideology, but I think the big thing that he'll be remembered for is being a great divider. So I thought, let's look at some of the candidates that are striving to take over from him. So Obama himself, he's driven. I mean, I have to give him that. He's focused on his ideology. He knows exactly what he wants, and he's not prepared to negotiate about it. It's my way or the highway. He's a true politician in that respect. Now, I think he fails in many areas because he's not a true politician with the likes of a Reagan or even a Clinton negotiating with the opposition, but it's very much more his own way. He's very much a narcissist. He's got his own agenda, and that's it. So what about some on the Republican side? Of course, we've got Cruz, who's driven as well. I think he's principled. He always stands up for what he wants to do. He has made changes in his life, and at the end of the line, he's been in the Senate for a few years. He is also a politician. That's not necessarily a good thing. Same for Rubio. He's a very good speaker. I've seen him speak in Florida, but he's also a politician. I think he bends more with the wind than Cruz does, with the wind and, of course, with campaign donations. He's been in politics all his life, so he's, like Cruz, like Rubio, they're all professional politicians, and I think we're getting fed up with that. I was having a discussion with some colleagues over lunch today. We're fed up with that. So then we look at the non-politicians. I'm going to leave Carly out of this because she's not even on the top table anymore, but Carson is still there. Now, he stands up for what he believes. I have to give him that. However, I think he's not experienced in politics. Some of the things going on in his campaign, I think, kind of show that. And I don't think, really, that he's had any real experience in major, large-scale executive decisions. So, would he be good? I don't know. We look at Trump. He's loud, he's brash, he's changed positions. But then again, in the list above, who hasn't as well? He does know how to negotiate. Part of his loudness and brashness is, I believe, that it's part of his negotiating stance. The GOP goes into things and says, this is what I want, and asks for it. And then the left, right, Harry Reid says, no, you can't have that, and pulls them more towards what the left wants. Trump goes in and says, well, I want this, and he would be surprised if he got it, but he knows that he's going to be dragged more to the middle, towards what the other side wants. But by the time they've dragged him a certain distance, he's probably exactly where he wanted to be. He just doesn't tell them that. So he knows how to negotiate. He's had experience in large-scale executive decisions because he's run a company. And he has some familiarity with the political environment because he's worked with politicians for his business a lot of the time. So, anyway, so that, that's on the Republican side. On the Democrat side, we have Hill liar, can't be trusted, lying, even more stuff coming up now. Now Hoomer is under investigation. I'd be surprised if she makes the nomination and doesn't get indicted, but we'll leave that for another show. Bernie Sanders, the aging hippie. Can you imagine? And I have to... we've reached the end of the show. I just want to do one quick thing. Debbie Wasserman Schultz claiming that Nikki Haley was put in to hide the lack of diversity, while the Democrats have an old white woman, an old white man, and a middle-aged white man as their candidates right now. Folks, this is absolutely unbelievable. Well, I see we've reached the end of the show. Time to say TTFN. The music is starting. Please come back next week. thanks a lot for joining me. And remember, do contact me by email. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.